So what I'm saying is that that what our passion is, it carries so much weight, and it doesn't, whatever your passion is, whether it's God or it's golf or it's astrology or it's singing or it's painting or it's dancing, do your passion. Because when you give yourself over to your passion, you can light that fire that then carries you into the rest of your life. Now, we've been studying the creative process this month, and a couple weeks ago I talked about the idea of how the Greeks and the Romans looked at the idea of creativity, that rather than being a genius, we were visited by genius. There was a daemon that came through, or a muse in a sense, and part of the thinking came from Elizabeth Gilbert, who wrote Eat, Love, Pray. And she said that there's a space there, that when you feel like you're calling upon genius rather than you are the genius, that it's a protection from narcissism of, oh, look how great I was, or look how terrible I was. There's this space that is created. And one of the things that she said was, our job in being creative is simply to show up. You show up. So whatever it is you do as your art form, you show up, and then we invite God, and God shows up through us. That's the idea. So I've been reading Keith Richards' autobiography from the Rolling Stones, right? And he was telling about his life, particularly when he was very young, and how much he loved the blues. And he couldn't get enough music. He couldn't find enough records to play and to listen to and to learn about the blues. And then when he and the Rolling Stones got together, they played every single day, all the time, every single day, blues, blues. And they were playing different songs. In fact, the Beatles, John and Paul, wrote a song for the Rolling Stones because they weren't writing their own music. And they wrote, I Want to Be Your Man. And they targeted specifically for the Rolling Stones so that they would have a song. And they were good. They were taking off. You know, things were going really well. But their manager said to them, you know what? Unless you write your own songs, you're not going anywhere. You know, you can sing other people's songs and you can regurgitate what's already out there. But if you really want to take off, you have to write your own songs. Well, they'd never written a song in their entire lives. So Keith Richards and Mick Jagger literally locked themselves up in their kitchen. And they said they had food, and that was about it. And he said it was miserable. They just sat there trying to figure out how to write a song, you know, kind of playing on the guitar and seeing what would come through, looking out the window. And then all of a sudden, out came a phrase. It is the evening of the day. I sit and watch the children play. And he said that's all it took, and then the whole song came. He goes, I don't know where it came from, I don't know how it came, but there it was. And what I see is that Keith Richards, Mick Jagger, they were giving themselves over to their passion, and their passion was music, their passion then was the blues, and then the creative spark came through as songwriting eventually, where songs came through them. So our job is to find out what is it that we say yes to, what is it that ignites that fire and that passion in us, so that when we enter into the creative process, when we do show up, then, you know, we're there, we're ready. We have the energy to keep going, because sometimes the creative process is so grueling. I don't know about you, but sometimes it's like, oh boy, you're sitting there and you're priming the pump and hoping something will arrive. Another example of this is the director of many of the Pixar films, John Lasseter. John Lasseter was in his late 20s, and this was a whole new thing, was to try to get animated films made on a computer. It was a big deal then. And John Lasseter was a Disney-trained animator, and he was hired to come in and animate with the computer in the world. Now, one of his passions was taking inanimate objects and animating them. So in other words, he probably would talk to the candle, you know, and the candle would come alive and it would do all these different things, and your purse would jump off the seat. That was his passion. That's what he did, and that's what he drew. And he said that his passion was to draw so that when you saw this come to life, that you would, just by the way it moved, you would know what its emotions were. So here he is, he's hired by this new company to bring animated film to computers, and what he realized was he's not a computer guy, not at all. And in fact, they had PhD computer scientists there who could handle that part of it. And he realized that his gift was in drawing. And so he said, I want to share with you specifically what he said. He said, I realized, wait a minute, I was taught by the great Disney animators how to bring character to life. So instead of trying to learn what they know, in other words, the computer scientists, I'm going to sit next to them and we're going to work in collaboration. And that really became the foundation of Pixar and how the studio works. Then, the first film that they made is called, it's the one with the lamp. Do you remember the one with the lamps? It's sort of their signia now. It's called Luxor Jr. And he said he was sort of playing with his lamp one day, and a coworker came in and had just had a baby. And he noticed how big babies' heads are in comparison to their bodies. And then he started looking at the lamp, and he's like, that could look like a baby. So he sort of did this whole thing around these lamps and jumping on the ball, and it won an award. And he said after it was shown, he said one of the computer graphic artists came up to him and wanted to talk to him, and he thought, oh, he wants to talk about, the lighting, or he wants to talk about the structure of it. And he said, this is what he said to him. He said, I have a question for you. And he said, was the parent lamp a mother or a father? And he said that simple statement made me realize that we achieved something that computer animation hadn't before. And what was interesting to people was the story and the characters, not the mere fact that it was made with a computer. And so, of course, they've gone on for Toy Story 1 and 2 and Cars. And they're amazing films, and it was this whole new thing, but it came about because John Lasseter knew not only what his gift and his talent was, but he also knew what his passion was, and so he was willing to stand in that. One of my ministerial school classmates died about 15 years ago, and on his deathbed, he told his wife to tell everybody that he knew to do what you love to do in life. That forget about, we have to do what we have to do. We have to work, and we have to pay our bills, and we have to do all those things. But he said, stop putting off what it is that you love, what says yes to you inside, what your passion is, and just do it. Instead of trying to make everybody else happy, make yourself happy. And a woman by the name of Bronnie Ware, she is a nurse who works with people who are dying. And she said, two of the things that most people regret are this. The first is, people say, I wished I'd had the courage to live a life true to myself, not the life that others expected of me. Again, where is your passion? And the second is, I wished I'd let myself be happier, to have fun, to play. And that's what being creative is all about. That's what passion is all about. It's about when you hear something and you go, yes, I may not be any good at it. I may not even make any money at it, but you know what? I really like this. I love this. And I'm going to do this because that becomes the fire, that becomes the candle that lights the spark of creativity that then lights up my whole life. It gives me the fuel so that I can go on and do all those other things that I have to do. So as we celebrate Father's Day today, and we celebrate our human dads, and we celebrate the guiding, protecting, providing spirit of the Father that guides and directs us, as we hold that energy, we also say yes. We say yes to creativity, we say yes to passion, we say yes to fun. Say yes. Yes. All right.